Welcome to the HBCU podcast. You're listening to episode 40. If you're an avid listener or just joining us for the first time, we're joined by some awesome HBCU grads in the form of co-host and guest. We also focus on all the great things HBCU alumni are doing all over the world. On this episode, we speak with Xav Handfield. He's a graduate of Bethune Cookman University. Xav is a successful speaker, consultant, and coach. His lively personality can be seen and heard at various venues as he speaks with a mission to develop youth and young adults. He's also using his gift to introduce a better way of living through the Plant Based Brotha. During this episode, we discuss his HBCU experience, the plant-based lifestyle, and why he's so passionate about inspiring before he expires. Keep listening. It's the HBCU podcast.
What's good, y'all? This is Xav Handfield, and I am a proud alumnus of the great Bethune Cookman University, and I graduated in 2009.
Thank you again for being here. Welcome to the HBCU podcast. And we have been on a little bit of a hiatus, so I'm really excited that we could kind of like kick off getting back into the fold with a guest like yourself.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. As you know, and I think a little bit through our conversation over email, you are making history here on the podcast. You're like the first guest that we've had from Bethune Cookman University.
Yeah. That makes me so excited. I am so proud to be the first Wildcat Bethune Cookman alumnus that you guys have had on this outstanding, prolific, much needed podcast. So thank you so much for even reaching out.
Awesome. Well, Xav, again, welcome to the show. So
thank you.
Is Xav short for anything?
It is. So my whole government is Xaviant, but all my friends call me Xav. So you're definitely my friend now. So you can definitely call me Xav.
Great. Okay. Because I wanted to clear that up first. Like I'm always kind of like taken aback when people are like, all right, Tasha. And I'm like, Natasha, I don't know you.
Right. I don't know you like that. Just chill.
Cool. So first off, we're going to jump right into just HBCU experience. Again, I mentioned to you and, of course, to all of the listeners, this is our first grad from Bethune Cookman University. So, one, where are you from and how did you end up at Bethune Cookman?
I am from the greatest place on earth. Please, if you don't live or you're not from my city, don't debate me. Don't at me, as they say on Instagram. I am from Miami, Florida, and I ended up at Bethune Cookman University because it's a family school. My grandfather is actually a 1958 graduate. He started off in the military, the Air Force, so he can pay to go to school. Went to Morehouse first, but then transferred to Bethune Cookman University because it was closer to home. He's a Miami boy, just like I am. Okay. It was closer to home, and all his buddies from high school were just like, yo, you need to come to Bethune Cookman. You need to come to Bethune Cookman. And while he was there, our founder was still alive. So,
wow.
Yeah. So, and the cool fun fact is Dr. Martin Luther King actually was my grandfather's commencement speaker. Can you believe that?
That is amazing.
Crazy, right?
Oh, my goodness.
So proud to even mention that. So I always knew I was going to Bethune Cookman when I was in high school. I literally only applied to one school. I did a band interview or audition, with the band because I knew I wanted to be in the best band in the world. Again, don't debate me. HBCU heads. I already hear y'all in the back of your mind saying, nah, we're the best. But no, so I already knew I was going to be in the marching band. And, only applied to Bethune Cookman. So my granddaddy instilled those roots, and I'm a third-generation Wildcat. All of his nieces and nephews went there.
Wow.
Talk
about legacy. I love that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, your grandfather, okay, so because, like, now I'm intrigued. Do you guys have, like, photos of this? Because that's major, like his commencement speaker, his time being there, possibly even any, interaction that he'd had with Dr. Bethune, like what?
Bethune, yes. So, unfortunately, I have not seen any pictures. The only picture I have seen is actually a picture of the marquee on campus, and it literally says, class of 1958, commencement speaker, Dr. Martin Luther King. So I know that, and I knew that that was factual, but unfortunately, I have not seen any pictures. But thank God, I found my grandfather alive, so I'm able to ask him questions. So literally, not last time I was home, but the time before last, we literally went around the park in his neighborhood, and I was just asking him, so wait, why did you leave Morehouse? And what made you go to the military? And he was just like, that's the thing. That was just the thing to do. People did that. Unfortunately, a lot of his friends didn't make it, and he was one of the ones that actually did make it and didn't, die in the military. But yeah, he was like, education. I knew that was my way out, and he still is to this day at 89 years old, such an advocate for education, and his children, grandchildren, great grandchildren now just getting educated and using their mind and achieving.
Awesome. Yeah, your grandfather, that's really cool, especially to have someone, of course, from your family with a legacy like that and can really,
Right.
just give you that firsthand experience of what life was like during that time on that campus
Mm-hmm.
and just everything that he, has been privileged to like witness. That's awesome.
Right. Right. Such a
Yeah.
blessing.
Very much so. So, with your rich legacy, you knew you were already going there. You said band was like one of the other things that led you there. But while you were there, were you in the band? What was your major?
Yeah, so I was actually marching volunteer from 2005 to 2008. So that's my era. So I did it my freshman year to my junior year. But my junior year, I just kind of I felt very like stagnant. Not stagnant as in, anything with the band, but I'm an extrovert. So I needed to get out there. I wanted to join clubs and organizations and things of that sort and be more active in my major. But, as most people know with the band, it's like you getting paid to play. So I was paying for, my private school education from the band. And senior year, I was just like, nah, I can't do that. So junior year, I pledged Kappa. And then senior year, I was able to get more active in my major. I was a mass communications, PR, advertising
There it
concentration
is.
major. Yep, mass comm. So my extroverted self was just, not being able to attend meetings and things of that sort. I was just like dying on the inside.
Hmm.
So senior year, I got active in my major, got active in Kappa. I became Mr. Homecoming. I was in pre-alumni. I was in Black Male Think Tank. I was in student government. So I just kind of like was not able to do. I definitely did it senior year. So the band was cool, but it had some time constraints that didn't allow me to be the best version of myself. I was trying to live my best life. You feel
You have to.
me?
And as soon as I started to see the different content that you in just your plant plant-based brother on social media and all of that, I just was like, I bet you he was a mass comm major. I didn't know that, but just, your presence just came off like someone who had been a little bit trained in that particular field. So that's awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I actually get that a lot because I'm able to just get in front of a camera or my phone or whatever and
Right.
just like go. It's kind of like light action go. I'm able to do it.
Turn
So
it
I'm
on.
thankful for that training at Bethune Cookman and like our most of our HBCUs. The faculty they kind of groom you and they prepare you and they challenge you. I remember it was one time I was a sophomore and my professor was just like, "Yo, you are a man of faith. You should not be acting like that. Coming to class late and not turning in work on time." She pulled me to her office. And she was shocked. She was like, "Why are you a young man of faith? I know that much about you. Why are you cutting the fool?" And I'm glad that she pulled me to the side and she had that conversation with me because she could have just let me cut a fool, been a typical 19-year-old and not pour into me. So I'm so grateful for that and the training and the experiences that I received during my era on the yard.
That's awesome. That's, again, if you've listened to the podcast or if you just know HBCU grads in general or even attended an HBCU, that's one of the things we all, definitely bring
Right.
up and uplift. There are just so many people there willing to be a part of your tribe, a part of your village, just to help raise you and help you get out there and be
Absolutely.
the best that you can be. So that's one of those things I really, really love about HBCUs.
Our
So,
schools, yep.
quick question. So I'm still,
Uh-oh.
it's not bad. I promise. I promise. So I was still,
Okay,
like I
okay.
said, here on, what do you call it? Research mode. And I was looking for
Mm-hmm.
things. I said, who is this Xav? Let's see who he is. So I want to talk a
Dun,
little
dun,
bit more,
dun.
right, about you, your major, but also your career path and what exactly you do now. So I think I found, but you can clarify for me, that you are a professional speaker and educational consultant, and talk a little bit about that, if that is what you do for sure, and how, Bethune Cookman actually prepared you for that career path.
Absolutely. So it's so funny because I am the plant-based brother, but I'm also a motivational speaker. But I also work for an education consulting company. So I'm kind of like, not kind of, I am a parallelpreneur. So I have my own things I'm doing on the side, but I still, report to, I still have a quote unquote 9 to 5 job. But like people think that I'm just like the plant-based brother. I do that full time. That's coming. I will be doing that full time very soon, but I still have a job. But I like to be kind of like elusive. It's like, yo, what does he do? Like, is he a motivational speaker? Does he do plant based? I like that elusiveness. So I love that how you put it. But so I work for an education consulting company, and I got that job because of my experiences in the education sector already. So I went to Bethune Cookman, graduated in 2009, and the economy was pretty crappy, as we know. The recession, no one can find any jobs. So a goal of mine was always to go get my master's. So I went to get my master's at a school in Orlando called Full Sail University. And I got my master's in business with a concentration in entertainment. I was going to be an A&R. I was going to work with artists. You couldn't tell me otherwise. So I graduated. I was like 23 years old. I was a bachelor with a master's. Get it? Get no? Okay. Um,
I was a little late to it, but I
so
got it.
you got it. You got it. Okay. So bachelor's, master's. I was smelling myself so heavy and so hard, and I just, I wasn't really looking for a job. I was living my best life in my apartment, and then I had to move back home. But moving back home was one of the greatest things, in retrospect, that could have ever happened. So I started working in the inner city schools in Miami, and I kind of felt like that rat running around the wheel. So I got this opportunity to work for this education consulting company. They were like, "Yo, bro, we want to hire you. We took a position. We have an opening in Chicago and Connecticut." I was like, bruh, I'm a Miami boy. I'm a Florida boy. Like, because I was open to moving, but places that didn't get 10 inches of snow, you know what I
Right.
mean? 10 feet or whatever it is. So I remember when I was in graduate school in Orlando, Texas was one of the places they were talking about, like, yo, there's going to be a big young adult boom in Texas, this, that, and the third. So I was like, I'm going to move to Texas, never stepped foot on Texas soil, literally, but I just kind of was operating in faith, like, Lord, you're going to work it out. I believe you. I'm going to be where I need to be. So, been with this education consulting company since 2012, and I'm operating in purpose. I get to present and do workshops and speak to youth about post-secondary options, because we know that there's not a one-size-fits-all for any of us,
Right.
and because of that, students, I've had the opportunity to speak to over 40,000 students in the past 6 years,
Oh,
and
wow.
just speak to them about doing something with themselves and just making sure that they're choosing the best option, not because mommy, daddy, uncle chose it, not because you're trying to secure the bag, even though there's nothing wrong with securing the bag, but
Right.
like truly knowing what it is that you want to do. Is it military? Is it entrepreneurship? You can go to YouTube University. There are so many opportunities. So I'm that guy that kind of exposes students to that. So in working for my education consulting company, I realized that I'm a public speaker. I always knew that, but I was just like,
You really
okay,
honed in on it.
this is, I really honed in on it. So I was like, I need to do this for myself. So I started branching off and speaking at churches and youth groups and organizations and keynotes and schools. And it kind of took me out. So Bethune Cookman definitely prepared me for that, because I mean, I've always been a speaker. I remember I don't know if your mom made you do Easter sermonettes
You know that.
and Children's Day. Y'all already know what's up. So my parents and my family used to make me do that all the time. But it wasn't until sophomore year I took an effective oral communications class with Miss Carla Lester. Love Miss Lester. She's still there to this day. And she just told us that there is power in your voice. And I just remember standing up in front of everybody and just being so nervous and so scared. And it's like, now look at me. But it was in those classes and in those moments and in those projects that we had to do that kind of instilled us like, bro, no, you are legit an adult now. You are 19 years old. You can do this. This is something that if you pursue it and if you invest in it and yourself, you can be successful. So if it wasn't for that effective oral communications class in college, I don't
You
know
wouldn't be where
if
you
I would
are.
be where I am today. To have that confidence, to have that assurance, to have that support from my peers and professors is really second to none, and really kind of like catapulted me to where I am today. Like, okay, and I'm just so thankful for that at my HBCU.
Absolutely. I really love about your story that, you're a mass communications major. You went in leaving school with an idea of what you thought you would do. And just
Oh
the
yeah,
confidence that your college has instilled in you allowed you to pivot and do something you totally didn't
absolutely.
even have in mind. Yeah.
Nope, not at all.
So
I'm
what
a
are,
big proponent of
oh, go ahead.
like transferable skills. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
definitely.
I think that's something that our HBCUs teach us. You know, everybody always clowning, oh man, the financial aid line is long and this, that, and the third. You know what? The financial aid line is very long and you might get your check a little bit late, but guess what? That's going to build character. And when you are an adult and maybe your check comes late or is short or whatever, hey, I've been through this before. This ain't nothing to a boss. Come on now. So you're able to pivot, like you said, and use those transferable skills. Okay, well, being resourceful, using all my skills, gifts, and talents, reaching out to individuals, networking. These are the things that I learned that are able to be transferable to me as a real deal adult. You know,
Nice. So are those some of the same things that you're kind of impressing upon the groups that you speak to? Like, are they always
absolutely.
youth or are they sometimes adults, or does the demographic change depending on what you're doing?
Yeah, the demographic definitely changes. Sometimes I speak to adults, mostly it's youth and young adults, but it's pretty much the same message. It's operating in purpose. What is your purpose? It is using transferable skills to enhancing your personal development. We should all be developing personally on a daily basis, and it's around those purpose and personal development and post college or post high school or post your 9 to 5 going into entrepreneurship. That's kind of what my focus is when I speak to different target markets.
Awesome. So me poking around, researching, aka being nosy, but
And
researching.
you still poking around?
I saw that you, had spoken somewhere, and one of the topics was HBCUs, and that you are definitely, I think it was like blacker the college, the sweeter the knowledge, but you're an advocate for HBCUs. Of course, being here, we can already like hear that in your conversation, and of course, just
Yes,
hearing
yes,
your
yes.
legacy as well. But what type of messages are you sharing, I guess, from your speaking experiences, and what is some of the feedback that you get from some of the students that you speak with when it comes to HBCUs and maybe even their perception of them?
Such a great question. The main things that I try to do is just share a little bit about my experience, and that's the beautiful thing about it. It's kind of like your relationship with God. People can say like, oh, God doesn't exist or this, that, and the third, but it's just like, no, what can be negated is your personal relationship and your personal experiences with the Most High God. So because of that, it's like the same thing with my HBCU experience. So many people have had different things going on. People have left and they have their things to say, but I can't speak to what their experience is, but I can only speak to mine. So I'll share a little bit about my experiences, and then I like to debunk a lot of myths. And then if I'm not debunking myths, I'm just educating because, as you know, teenage, I always say youth is wasting on the young. And what I mean by that is, sometimes we're like, man, I probably should have gone to an HBCU for a different experience, but we're so focused on like, okay, I live in Texas. I'm going to go to, the top school in Texas, University of Texas in Austin. I'm going to go to Texas A&M, where I'm just another number, but they just see it as like a really good school. It's super competitive. So I usually in my messages, I'm debunking myths. I'm educating because some students in the audience have no idea what an HBCU is. And I'm also just letting students know that there are so many different HBCUs with different cultures and different systems and majors in place that probably have majors that you are interested in. So that's what I'm usually doing when I'm speaking to students about HBCUs. And just, it's important. To talk about it's important and why it's important as a young Black person, especially when I'm predominantly Black school. It's like, yo, I give it to them real. I'm talking like their big bro or their older cousin. It's like no time in our life are we ever going to be the majority. So if you can get 4 years of again living your best life or trying to at least and just seeing how Black people operate, because we are not a monolith. We are different and we are culturally different. You can be someone from Africa or someone from the Caribbean. Their culture is totally different from that of African Americans. And guess what? We can all still thrive and coexist. So just debunking those myths are so important to me.
Nice. Yeah, I applaud anybody who is out there continuously trying to, educate people on HBCUs, share their experience about HBCUs, and then also just doing what they can to support HBCUs. Recently, a friend of mine, we were talking just like in depth about the whole accreditation issue that was going on with Bennett. And
so many of our schools.
Yeah, so many of them, but yeah, for sure. And we were just talking about how important it is to continuously, even those who don't actually attend them, just realize what their impact is on the community. And when they need your help, and even if they don't need your help, continue to pour into that, college that's been there, educating your community for,
absolutely
a century. So
glad
you're out here with the cause. Now we're shifting to, I'm probably sure like one of your favorite things to talk about, but here I'm definitely excited to talk about it, is the Plant-Based Brotha. So again, in my research, I was on YouTube and came across the videos too, and I was like, oh my gosh, everything that's on here is really resonating with me. The latest one that I saw was the one that you just posted, and it was just like making a meal that made me like automatically hungry and ready to cook, and I don't cook. So let's talk a little bit about this and how it all came about, and everybody get into it, because I just really want you to be blessed with what I'm sure you're about to share.
Yo, yeah, I don't think they're going to be ready, but you got to get ready and just stay ready. So the Plant-Based Brotha. Where do I start? So I decided to give up meat at the age of 12.
Wow.
So crazy to even think that. I saw a documentary at church one Saturday, and that was all she wrote. I was 12 years old. I've always been kind of like the type of person that marches to beat my own drum. Hey, what 12-year-olds did you know, in 2000 just going vegetarian or whatever the case may be? I was literally the only one. And it was just such a shift, but it wasn't a huge shift that kind of like made me feel negative about just not eating meat or anything like that. I honestly changed my diet because I didn't know that they did a lot of that stuff to animals. So, I was just, and my uncle, he previously was vegetarian. So I was kind of like knew about it. But I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this for myself. So, when I was in college, I was a pescatarian. So, if we had fish fries or if we had like kickbacks and whatnot, I'm like, yo, y'all make sure you have some tilapia. We're going to fry some tilapia and make some fried fish sandwiches while y'all playing. And my friends used to always look out for me and things of that sort. But the Plant-Based Brotha was kind of like birthed from the documentary What the Health. When that documentary came out, and if you have not seen it, while you Netflix and chilling with Bae, make sure that you kind of like slide that one in the queue and watch it. So when that documentary came out, so many people were like messaging me and DMing me and just saying like, yo, I know that you are vegan or vegetarian or whatever it is that they said, or plant-based. Can you give me some recipes? Can you show me how to do it? And I was like, like my spidey senses started tingling, and I was like, bro, you might be on to something. And I came up with some names, and they were really corny names. And then I finally stumbled upon plant-based, or God gave me Plant Based Brotha. I'm a brother, I'm a black man, and I'm plant-based. And even if I didn't have a platform, I would still be a brother that chooses to live a plant-based lifestyle, especially when it comes to food. And
so it worked all around.
I'm really excited about it. All around, you know what I mean? So I'm really excited about it. It's really taking off, and I don't like to call myself like the controversial one, but lately I've been kind of like opening my eyes to like the plant-based lifestyle, and a lot of people call it synonymous. Will pair it synonymously with being vegan. And if I'm in a restaurant, like, and you and I go to a restaurant, I might ask the waiter, like, hey, do you have any vegan options? But if I am speaking to like friends, or if I'm in a social setting, I'm going to say that I'm plant-based, because plant-based is kind of like the umbrella. And then you have different things under. You got vegetarian, you got pescatarian, you have, raw vegan. You have so many different levels. So I just usually say I'm plant-based because I'm more so about the community. So I love animals. Animals are cool, but a lot of times vegan people, their plight is animals. Like, the animal can feel, and the animal spirit and their soul, and, don't harm the animals. And I don't think you should be harming animals, from an environmental standpoint, that is very much so true. But I'm even more passionate about? I'm more passionate about educating the community. I'm more passionate about why is it in our families we're passing down high blood pressure and high cholesterol? Why is it that people's aunt, like my aunt, had diabetes and my grand aunt, she had diabetes and had to get her foot amputated and her leg amputated. And she was fairly young, 60-something years old. That is not okay. So I'm more so about our community and educating our community about the plant-based options, why it's so much better, and just how we can have a better life. And, I always get, man, you got to die some way, or, whatever. But let's think about quality. Let's just be real with ourselves.
Right, while you're here.
Quality. While I'm here, I want to be 80 years old and, able to run with my grandson. Like, I want to be able to do those things and not in pain or overweight or anything like that. So that's kind of like where my mission has kind of like shifted with Plant-Based Brotha. And I want to, I'm actually branching out and going to doing a church tour very soon. So, if I'm ever in your area, definitely bring your boy to your church. Just saying.
We'll pull up for sure.
Pull up, you know what I mean?
What's interesting about this is you saying, hey, I started this lifestyle at 12. And
Yes.
What I want to ask you with someone, starting this at 12 and being around your family, because I am pescatarian. I haven't eaten meat for like 9 years. No beef, no chicken, no pork.
Okay.
But my family like almost went crazy when I came to stuff and was like, oh, I'm not eating that. I can't eat this. Do you have another option? So how did your family engage with you as a 12-year-old and really accommodate you? Because at that age, you're not working, you're not buying food. How did your family, help you like incorporate that lifestyle?
In retrospect, I am so grateful for my family. Just thinking back, I'm 31 years old right now, and just thinking back to when I was 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, when I was a teenager just growing up, no one ever shamed me. And I look back because I know in certain cultures and communities, it's just like, hey, you gonna eat what I eat, you gonna cook what I eat. And it's just like, nah, bro, that was not my experience. But I feel like I have like a unicorn experience, so to speak, as far as my family is concerned, because they were able to make, okay, well, we know Xav doesn't eat X, Y, and Z. So we're going to make him some vegetarian meat, or on Thanksgiving, vegetarian turkey, and this, that, and the third. So my family was totally supportive. Actually, a lot of people in my family, back then, even to this day, are transitioning their diets and eating less processed stuff, and taking out meat out their diet and eating a more whole food, plant-based diet. And I mean, I like to think it's because of me, but I know it's just they're just being awakened and just
You were an
understanding quality
influencer.
of. I was an influence, like low key, high key. I was an influence. So yeah, I'm just so grateful for my family back then. They never shamed me. They never talked bad about me. They never say, "You're gonna eat what I'm gonna eat." They just always kind of like made reservations, and they were inclusive.
That's
And
awesome.
that is so awesome.
Yeah. Now, being that you, of course, you've done the research. I mean, if you've been on this plant-based lifestyle for since 12, so it's been years for you.
Yeah, almost 20 years. Yep.
Yeah, you obviously are well versed in the lifestyle and able to provide people with lots of advice. So for anyone who is thinking about it or just transitioning, like, what are some of the best ways, some of the best tips for people to transition into a plant-based lifestyle?
Absolutely. So I would say the first thing is definitely follow the Plant Based Brotha on Instagram, subscribe on YouTube, and like on Facebook. Just saying, nah, but no, seriously.
You should. It will
You
inspire
definitely hit
you.
me up. You feel me? Definitely hit me up. I don't mind answering questions if I'm able to. But the first thing is, I would definitely say, make sure that you understand your why. Like, why are you doing it? And I think sometimes our why drives us enough. And it's so unfortunate that a lot of times people clown, like, oh, do you only eat salads and this, that, and the third, until, sometimes you get sick. And the only thing you can eat is salad. And it's like, yo, if you would have been doing this a long time ago, you wouldn't be in this predicament. So it's just, don't be that person. But number one is make sure that you figure out your why you're doing it, and then kind of operate in that. Okay, well, I want to operate in health, or I want to be around for my kids, or my kids have an allergy and my diet has to change for them. So figure out your why. Number two, I would definitely say, don't compare your journey to anyone else's. Why that's so important is because when you compare your journey, you comparing your journey to the Plant-Based Brotha or to Natasha's, it's just like you can't compare where you don't compete, where you know what I mean? You just can't. We've been in this game for a while, so I'm able to go to a restaurant and ask, a couple questions. Boom, 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 boom. Am I going to be able to eat this? Yes, no, maybe so. I've been doing it since I was 12, so I'm able to go to a restaurant and kind of figure that out. But don't compare your journey to anyone else's. And then not comparing your journey to anyone else's, that brings me to my next point. Make sure that you are going at your pace. In 2015, January 24th, 2015 to be exact, I went to a workshop and I was like convicted by the Holy Spirit. I was just like, I am not going to eat any fish or any animal byproducts anymore, any dairy. And the reason why that was so monumental to me is because I, like so many people that will be listening to this podcast, said I'll never be able to give up this. Oh, I love my Talenti's ice cream, and I love my cheese pizza, and I love my mama's macaroni and cheese, but it did not love me. It used to tear me up. I used to be super mucusy, blowing my nose all the time because of the dairy produces mucus and just so many other things. So I just remember just sitting there just saying, like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I mentioned that story because that's when I gave up all animal byproducts, one, so to speak. One, but two, because I said I'll never be able to do that. So I'm like, if you say never, you'll be surprised at yourself. So never say never, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. And I think the last piece of info I would give individuals is, do not reinvent the wheel. There are so many places that you can go as far as restaurants. Okay, you can't afford restaurants. You like cooking? Bet. YouTube, Pinterest, and Google are free. There are every recipe that you can think of, there is going to be a plant-based alternative, whether it's pizza, whether it's lasagna, whether it's chicken, whether it is um, shepherd's pie, whatever alternative whatever you like. There's a vegan, vegetarian, plant-based alternative that you can adapt. It's all about how much making that choice and that decision, and then application. Are you going to apply? Are you going to meal prep? Are you going to plan? Or are you just going to be like, man, I just gave up. I can't do it.
Yeah. I love all of those tips, but my favorite one is remember your why, because people always ask me, and I really actually want to get to a place where it's just plant-based for myself as well. And I occasionally
Yeah.
still do seafood, but it was because
Yeah.
I remember the day. I don't remember the date like yourself, but I remember we were at Chop House for a friend's birthday, and I decided to have the petite pork chop. And I usually don't even really I wasn't a big meat eater, but I usually
Right.
didn't do meat much unless I went to a restaurant because I just don't cook. So when I was
Right.
out, I was like, oh, I'll get this. So I remember having it. I remember I felt terrible for like days. And I remember going to the doctor and I was like, I don't know what's up. And he was just basically like, listen, I think you might have digestion issues, and just start removing
Uh-oh.
things from your diet and,
Right.
just kind of see how, it goes. So the first thing I did was meat, because I remember that's what I ate immediately. So I was like, well, let's just cut this out and see how it goes.
Right.
And that's when I started researching and, getting a little bit more versed with plant-based things and just all the other options that were there. And then I just kind of let it go. And it wasn't super hard for me because I wasn't a huge meat eater. I was kind of like that
Right.
occasional meat eater because, again, I don't
Yeah,
cook.
for sure.
So, but yeah, remember your why. So I do remember feeling that way. I knew it was something I never wanted to feel again. And then it's kind of what
hmm
drives me every time. I'm like, oh, that smells great, but no thanks.
Yeah, I'm good. Love, enjoy.
Right. Yeah. So, with all of that being said, you also said, there are so many free tools that are out there, especially if you're looking towards this lifestyle and you wanted to really hone in on some recipes and, try to get yourself together on how to transition. But one of the things that you've been able to do with Plant Based Brotha is create so many other opportunities for content, your social channels, your YouTube, your live
Yes.
appearances, your ebook. So let's talk about some of those things and what is out there for people who are very interested in making that transition.
For sure. Yeah, I definitely have an ebook that I came up with, and it's about 15 recipes. And the beautiful thing about it is it's versatile in the sense of it's going to be desserts and breakfast and lunch and dinner. So it has a bunch of recipes that I've tried myself and that other people have tried and that they've enjoyed. So my ebook is out there, and I just want to speak to fear. I mean, I position myself in as a food vlogger. So when I go to a different place, if you follow me on Instagram, I'm always somewhere. Like I'm never sitting
Yeah.
down somewhere, right? So I position myself as like a vlogger because I'm like, okay, well, I love being in front of the camera and I love going to different places and educating individuals on the different plant-based options that they can have. But it took me maybe a year and a half to start my YouTube channel after I started my Plant-Based Brotha page. And it's just like, I want to speak to that person right now that is, you are an HBCU grad. You're not an HBCU grad. You love this podcast. It's your first time listening to this podcast, but you're still operating in fear. There are certain moments that I operate in fear, but I was like, man, I don't really want to be on YouTube, and I don't want to have to feel kind of like the restraints of like, oh, I have to post or I don't need to post. But that was just all just fear disguising itself as kind of like protecting myself. But there's something in your life, maybe it's a YouTube channel, maybe it's an Instagram page that you're super passionate about, or a skill or a gift that you have. So definitely just step out on faith and just know that God will direct your path if you ask him to direct your path. But that's how my YouTube channel got started. I was so fearful, and I was like, I don't want to have a YouTube channel. It's just I don't want people to see me, but yet I'm on Instagram every day. But I was just like, okay, I was cool with that because your stories leave after 24 hours. So it's just kind of like a weird juxtaposition. But yeah, I just want to leave that with somebody. I just let that settle in your spirit. If you are operating in fear, today is the day that you need to kind of like get rid of it and just start that thing. And as I'm speaking to you, I'm speaking to myself because there are still some things that I am working on. But again, as far as content, holler at my YouTube channel. Definitely check out my my Instagram. I'm most active on Instagram, and then my ebook is out here changing lives. It's just like, yo, man, you want to transition? This is your go-to for transitioning to a plant-based diet, a plant-based lifestyle.
Nice. So, still quickly on that topic, because I love that you mentioned that. I've had the same kind of like fear when it came to social media. I actually just
Right.
did like a workshop with some students at Fort Valley State on social media, making sure they're representing themselves correctly, just so that you're not out,
Dope.
all of that kind of stuff. But let's talk about how, I guess, all of the things that you do and all of the outlets for content that you have, you were really prepared for, coming from Bethune Cookman, or maybe you weren't, and there are things that you learned along the way. But how did Bethune Cookman kind of also help you with what you're doing with social media with your brand?
Absolutely. So I graduated in 2009, so that was kind of like the era of like Twitter. Was just kind of like popping off. Of course, we've had Facebook for forever and a day now by that time. And so I just, honestly, when I was in school, um, so I was more so into like, I was a mass comm major through and through. So I was more so interested in socializing, talking to my friends, having a good old time. So there's this class that I took, and it was like an introduction to Photoshop or something like that. And when I tell you, I was not, as if I could be honest, I was not as studious as, 31-year-old Xav would have liked to that he was. And I barely got through with a C, but I'm looking back to think like, yo, if I would have actually paid attention and done Adobe Photoshop and just taken that seriously, I wouldn't have to be, it's so funny. There's a full circle moment in this conversation. I'm currently in talks with the former Mr. Bethune Cookman University, Joshua Cox, to do a logo for me for a T-shirt that I'm working on. But I'm looking back to like, yo, if I was paying attention to that introduction to Photoshop class, when we were learning Adobe Weaver or Photoshop or Dreamweaver, whatever it was called at the time, I would probably not be needing to consult the services of other graphic designers. Of course, I'm going to use a Bethune Cookman grad. But yeah, I think that my school, my alma mater, Bethune Cookman, definitely prepared me with the skills to kind of like, do graphics and postings. I took a class, like a newspaper class, but that newspaper magazine class, but that class was just to help me with my writing. So I kind of like am I don't want to call myself a grammarian, but I like to put, parentheses and commas in the right place and have my curated post and my messaging to make you persuade to like something or get your involvement. And that was all from, Miss Joanna Milton's class from, magazine, the 101 or whatever it was called. So those classes that I took, I'm definitely using it right now. And as far as my verbiage and my wording and putting myself out there and just being, I remember working on a PR campaign for the Florida Classic, our annual game between Florida A&M and Bethune Cookman, and we won a couple of awards. But it was in that partnership I realized, like, yo, it's so important to work together. And how that's helped me in my social media life is I've collaborated with a bunch of businesses, Black-owned, Hispanic, Latino owned businesses and organizations and companies and food trucks. And, people send me stuff from time to time like, yo, I just got some energy treat balls or whatever they're called, and I'm going to be doing a giveaway closer to Easter. So I am completely audacious with reaching out like, yo, hey, I'm a food vlogger in Houston, Texas. I would love to tell my followers and my friends about your dairy-free ice cream. And guess what? This local company, this company about a couple hours away, they were like, yo, man, I love what you're doing. and we're going to send you some coupons so you can enjoy this ice cream. It's just like that. Yeah, being audacious, that collaboration, working together with individuals. Those were all things that I did at Bethune Cookman University. And it's just so funny as you ask me these questions, I'm just recalling the things that I did that ultimately prepared me to be who I am today. And I'm just a kid from an HBCU.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's really dope. Wow.
Now, you also consult because from what I saw on your YouTube, you were with a gentleman who I think has a food truck, correct? And you guys collaborated to do...
Yep, that was fun.
Yeah, to do a video. So talk about your consulting and your coaching, and do you do this just one-on-one, or do you do it with businesses, or how does that look for your brand?
Yeah, so I am a food consultant, plant-based food consultant. So if you are a company or an organization or a business that is looking to incorporate more plant-based options, you can call the Plant Based Brotha. You can consult. I can consult with you or your organization, and we can kind of like do some trial and error, introduce different things that you may not have heard of or even known existed. Mm-hmm. So that's the consulting piece. And I'm really, really excited that my coaching is kicking off in a couple weeks. And I am going to be working with individuals and groups to just get them to transition, because I was just, as an entrepreneur, sometimes you struggle, not all the time, but sometimes you struggle with finding out what your unique selling proposition is, what your unique value, what value do you add to the marketplace that is different from anybody else. And I struggled with that for so long, you would not even believe. But what I've come to realize, talking to one of my older big bros, pro fights, and mentors, mm-hmm. is the fact that I help people on the spectrum. So what that means is, if Natasha wanted to incorporate one plant-based meal in her diet a week, cool. But if Johnny wants to go completely plant-based, he wants to level up in his health and how he's feeling, and for he and his family, I can also help that person too. So whether you're just beginning that journey or whether you have been on the journey for a while but you want to take it seriously, I coach individuals that are on the spectrum. So that's something that I'm really, really proud about as well, because I don't shame anybody. Like, yo, you want to eat your meat from time to time? Cool. If I'm coaching you, I'm going to tell you about the effects and of possibly eating let's say pork or things of that sort, mm-hmm. because you don't know what you don't know a lot of the time. Sometimes people don't care, but the coaching is something I'm really excited about, because I do coaching with my speaking. I do coaching and presentations and workshops. So a lot of the things that I do are kind of intertwined. I'm just a natural born
teacher,
inspiration, some speaker, coach and consultant and presenter. It's just all of that. So that's the consulting is something that I'm really excited about, and the coaching is just my baby as well.
I think it's so necessary, because I love that you don't really nail down a particular title with it, speaker, teacher, coach, whatever, because it's going to be received so many different ways, and so many people are going to come your way just because they like what you're calling yourself. And then same with your social media channels. Like, you're not going to find, everybody's not going to follow all of them, but someone will see you on YouTube. Someone might see you on Facebook, whatever the case is. But you guys, if you're listening, I was watching the YouTube channel, and one of the things, like I said, you were doing there was just showing all the other options, and some of them I was new and hip to. So the sour cream, because I am a huge Mexican food eater, I love that. I said, I'm going to Whole Foods. I'm going to go check that out. I'm going to see if I can find that, because I'm also lactose intolerant, but I'm one of those people who keeps teetering the line back and forth with cheese and dairy and all of that. So that's something I'm really going to try to lock into. But I love what you're doing, and I want people to continue, just follow along and see what nuggets you can take from it, because the lifestyle, even though I'm not fully where you are, I hope to be, it has definitely changed my life, and just how I feel on the day-to-day compared to when I did eat meat. So
absolutely, just trying to inspire somebody. Just that's the goal, that's the motto. Just aspire to inspire before you expire. That's
Nice.
just one of my favorite quotes.
I love it. Okay, so now we're going to transition a little bit into some HBCU memories. We can't, have you on here and we can't have you on the podcast without going down memory lane. You giving us a little bit about, because we haven't had a Bethune Cookman grad on here, so we need to know how y'all get down in Daytona. So
Right.
what is one of your favorite memories of like undergraduate life at Bethune Cookman?
Oh, I mean, I went to the HBCU. I have like 10 of them. Good grief. Oh my gosh. One of my favorite memories. I think one of my favorite memories would have to be performing at the Florida Classic. It was November 2005, and it was my first time just obviously performing as a marching band at a classic. And it's just like, I mean, I'm just getting chills just thinking about the just marching down the field as a crab in the band and just hearing everybody sing. It was, the classic was well attended back then. It was like 70,000 people in the stand. At one point we were the highest attending classic, beat out the Bayou Classic, because of course that was being shown online. So yeah, back in my era, that 03, 07 era, people used to come in droves to the Florida Classic. But my one of my favorite memories is just marching across that field. Dum, 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 dum. Wow, Chad. So you hear like this echoing around the stadium. So it's like, wow, 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 Chad, let's go. So just hearing that, and then afterwards, like everybody in my family just being there. I'm talking about my mom, my godmother, my aunts, my uncles, my cousin. After the game, they were just there they went to the Florida Classic to support me and my twin sister, who is an HBCU grad. And yeah, they just came to support us in the band. So that was freshman year, and I just remember them coming for homecoming as well. And it was just like, reminds me like, oh yeah, homecoming is when you come home and it feels like a family reunion. Especially, I know you can relate. Claflin is small, like Bethune Cookman is small, so everybody's not rushing to our homecoming like the AUC or the GHO at North Carolina A&T or Howard.
Right.
Nobody's rushing to ours, but guess what? That's cool and that's beautiful, because it's actually going to be people at homecoming that I know.
Right, because we're rushing to it.
Reunion. Right. You come back and meet with your line brothers, line sisters, teachers, old friends, whomever. So it definitely feels like a family reunion. So that was one of my favorite memories of being a Bethune Cookman University student.
You dropped that in there like real easy. You have a twin?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, so that didn't come up in my research. How was school? Did you guys go to the same school?
Yep. We went to the same school from kindergarten to college. Yep.
Nice. So how was life at school with the twin? That's awesome.
Oh my God, it was the best thing ever. And I'm not just blowing hot air, because if you're not a twin, like, you wouldn't know.
Right.
But it's just, could you imagine just being at your HBCU with like your best friend or whatnot?
Yeah.
And the fact of, and of course I went to college 4 hours away. So there were a lot of Miamians, and there were a lot of individuals who were from Florida, obviously, at Bethune Cookman University, and a lot of people that I knew. But going to college with my twin sister was like the greatest thing. We were in the band together. We were freshman brother and sister, so we were able to share experiences. Funny story, I'm an avid, let me not even clown myself right now, but I'm an avid napper to this day. So I remember being in the band as a crab, and as a crab, you're at the bottom of the barrel. And I used to just like oversleep, and she used to be screaming like my name, like, hurry up, what's wrong with you? Da 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 da. Like my freshman brother sisters in the saxophone section would can definitely attest to that. But I used to just stroll in there, kind of like I was marching to the beat of my own drum. I guess that's a recurring theme. But yeah. So my twin sister just being in the band and having that experience with me and carrying on that legacy was great. And then the following year, I had one of my closest cousins to attend Bethune Cookman as well. And then The following year, I had 2 other cousins. The following year, like, and I'm not joking, I've literally had a cousin at Bethune Cookman since 2005 when I was there.
That's awesome.
And it's 2019 now. So yeah. It's in the family.
That's dope. Yeah, that's awesome. I was like, wait a minute, a twin, that had to be super lit for school.
It was dumb lit, yeah.
Okay, so I feel like we almost talked about homecoming, but the Florida Classic is not homecoming. So as far as homecoming, what are your best memories of that? Either as while you were there or as an alum?
Homecoming. Yeah. I mean, it honestly would have to be senior year. Senior year was the greatest year. Homecoming 2008 was the greatest year ever because one, the Kappas won the step show, the homecoming step show in 2008. I was on that team, and we worked hard. We worked so hard to win that step show. So that was such a great thing. My chapter was celebrating 60 years of being chartered. And then I won Mr. Homecoming. So it was just like back to back to back to back. Like that weekend was crazy. I literally got no sleep. But just being crowned Mr. Homecoming was truly an honor. I had pins and we had the pageant and those are just things that make me smile thinking back to my HBCU experience. Like, this is what homecoming is all about. We're coming home. I still have my crown and a lot of fun stuff from that era. But definitely homecoming 2008 was a remarkable time, a great experience. And I wish I could go back. Now I'm playing.
That sounds fun. Mr. Homecoming, congrats. And then you're a member, we haven't even talked about this, a member of the Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. So, I mean, when did that happen? Yep. When did you do it? Was it junior year, senior year, sophomore?
Yep. So they were, of course, off the yard when I got there. Like the tree was gray, like literally in the middle of the yard, just this big old gray tree. Yeah. So I graduated high school, 05, and they got kicked off in 05. But I came and they had this great tree, and I did my research, and I just did my research. I started attending events, and I said I could see myself in this organization. So 2008, the opportunity presented itself for them to get back on the yard, and I had already built a rapport with some of the older brothers. And my line, I was number 13 out of 21. And we were we weren't really a resurrection line because they were still brothers on the yard, but didn't have a line in 3 years. So we were kind of like the don't call it a comeback, but we were the comeback line. And
they needed y'all.
That was, they needed us. And we changed the yard, I would say, in 2008 and beyond. So, yep. So that was a cool experience as well.
Very cool. Now, sometimes when I have people here on the podcast, we always talk about and have talked about, but this, just kind of like memories of food and in the caf and all that kind of stuff. So I haven't asked any students like as of late, because I have a cousin who's, currently at Claflin, that I haven't asked them, are HBCUs like incorporating more plant-based options or something like that? But is that something you could see yourself kind of like being interested in or assisting with, maybe like consulting to put those kind of programs in place at some of the schools? Because I haven't heard anyone mention, if we got to any healthier options when it comes to food there, because we all kind of are affected a little bit by that freshman 15, and I'm not sure if that's something or some options that you've had as of late.
Yeah, and it's so funny you asked me that question, because I was just messaging. I live in Houston, so the HBCU out here is Texas Southern University, and I'm in talks with I think the Health Club or the Vegan Club or both of them, and they want to bring me on next semester. But I would love, from your mouth to God's ears and the people listening, make it happen. Like, I would love to consult with Sodexo or whoever is on these with these companies and at these schools to start providing healthier options. What I had, granted, I was a pescatarian/vegetarian in college, so I was able to eat cheese and I had salads and I still ate fish and from time to time. But I definitely think that colleges are becoming more hip and privy, and they're having like options such as Chipotle, which is excellent. You can eat Mexican slash Chipotle anytime and still be good. So, yeah, I would love to. I actually would love to do that. I'm a consultant, so consult with the Plant Based Brotha. Holla at your boy if this is your area of expertise. Like, fly me to where you are. Let's talk about it because our HBCUs, you know, do not need to be quote unquote food deserts in the terms of
Oh, I
not
love
having
that.
the you feel me? Like, when you go to Clemson, I'm sure they have,
All
you
the
know,
options.
all the UNC, Duke, they have all the options. It runs the gamut, from things that stay open late to just healthier options in the cafeteria, a vegan bar, a vegan section. Just give that opportunity. And we got to be with the health message and knowing that if we have better health, we can have a stronger mind produce better grades produce better students produce better alumni, and they can acquire, even the smallest things such as food to enhancing their HBCU experience. So
Absolutely.
that needs to change. I'm glad you brought that in.
For sure. Yeah, food desert. I love the word that you use for that cuz I could totally attest. So, just towards the end of our conversation, I'm glad that we kind of like segued into this, but giving, because essentially that's what you would be doing, even if it was through consulting. But we always like to talk about giving here on the podcast. I'm really passionate about
Mm-hmm.
it, and as are all of the guests that I usually have. So, how does giving back to Bethune Cookman look like for you? What does that look like for you?
Such a powerful and poignant um, kind of like closing to our conversation. Giving looks how that looks for me is every year. So this is the second year that I've done it, but every year I go to what they call Alumni Day of Service, and that's when alumni come back and they are just sharing about their experiences, their time on the yard, and currently what they're doing in that space. I love being able to do that. Just literally flying from Texas back to Florida and spending 2 days on the yard, just interacting with students. I met dozens of students, that I still keep in contact with to this day from Alumni Day of Service. So I give back my time and I tell the students like, yo, take my number down, hit me up via DM. Like, I'm a resource to you. Hit me up. If you're trying to be an entrepreneur, if you're trying to be a speaker, if you want to be plant based, if you like what I wore, just anything, hit your boy up. Just I would love to be a resource to you in any type of way. So I do Alumni Day of Service, and then I give back. A lot of times they have like various campaigns where it could be as little as $25 or $10 and whatnot. And although people don't think that is much, whether you give $10 or $100, whether I give $25 or $250, is so important when you are able to just give back. You're able to give back to your alma mater. So that's what I do. They have different campaigns, and I'm always like, okay, well, I did Alumni Day of Service. Okay, well, I did this, did that, and then homecoming, I was able to do some guest lecturing and just speaking to classes and just again sharing my experiences and having question and answers and just letting it be an open think tank of like, hey, I'm an alumni. I sat in these shoes in these seats that you guys are currently sitting in, and I would love to be a resource for you. So just being there for the students, because I just try to think about that would have been so dope if that was around when I was there. Just reaching out to like young, cool alumni that, they've been in their careers for a while, or they're doing well for themselves and they actually went to my school. I think that would have been very powerful to me to see. So, what they be, they will see. So that's kind of how I give back to my alma mater.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's one of the reasons we, started the podcast, because I was always telling
Yeah.
people like, I want you guys to meet the people who are here who are moving and shaking. They come from these
Facts.
various HBCUs. They're really doing awesome things out there. What do you think some of the things that are hindering people from giving back their time, talent, and treasures? And I don't want to say young alumni. I just want to say alumni in general, because I've seen, people who graduated from the institution 60 years ago just now kind of coming back into the fold. Nothing wrong
Right.
with that, but we're trying to figure out why isn't it that we don't instantly why do you think that is, that we instantly just don't give back to our colleges?
Um, I too have these conversations with friends and pro fights and things of that sort. And I think that I'm just, hey, we keeping it real, right?
Keeping it real.
We keeping it real. I just think that they had certain experiences, and because of those experiences, it kind of like trickled down to like, okay, well, I'm not going to give to my alma mater, and it equates with, okay, I had an issue with one black business, so I am not going to support any black business. It's like the same
Yeah.
mindset. I have somebody that I'm close to that went to a predominantly white school for their masters, and they were just telling me like, yeah, they always send me stuff, and they let me know what's going on campus, and it seems like they care, and I actually give back to this predominantly white institution, but I don't give back to my HBCU because it's just, they're always going through issues and this, that, and the third, and I'm like, but we have to kind of like pay homage to where we got our foundation from. Let's just keep it real. You wouldn't have been able to go to that predominantly white school because of if you didn't have an undergraduate degree from said HBCU. So I think the one thing is that they have this negative experience. Oh man, well my car got broken into one day when I was on campus, or I got into a fight and got kicked out for a semester, or I had this negative experience, or I never got my refund on time, or whatever the case, my school costs too much. I hear that a lot, and it's just these are sorry, not sorry, horrific, unexcusable excuses not to get back to your alma mater, the school that kind of like, again, gave you that foundation and shaped you to be who you are today. So I think that alumni just need to kind of, get out their bag and just realize that,
Do a self-check.
Self-check, hey, the students need it. Okay, well, if you don't want to get back to the school, you know what? Be intuitive and create a scholarship. So it's not necessarily to the school, so to speak, because you just like the school that you have this beautiful, big, probably expensive degree from in this beautiful frame. But okay, don't give it to the school, but give back to a student, somebody from your major, somebody from your hometown, and create a $1,000 or $500 scholarship for them. If you don't want to give back, there's always I'm super resourceful, and I'm like, okay, well, this is your excuse and your problem. Okay, well, bet this solution. All right, cool. I'm always trying to like not one up individuals, but hey, let's create a solution and start talking towards bettering our community and individuals. So if you're an alumni that does not give back, hey, y'all, give back. Our students need it. Get out your bag. Get out your feelings. Whatever HBCU you went to, I'm going to apologize on behalf of them because I'm such an HBCU advocate. I apologize. We are sorry. We love you. We are glad that you attended your said HBCU, but we need you, and we need you to give back, and we need to be thriving in 100 more years, or 100 more years.
Amen. Couldn't have said it better myself. I love that. Yeah, that is a great way. I like what you said about the major and creating a scholarship, because essentially with scholarships and those types of donations or restricted funds, that's something else we have to think about too. When you give a gift and you put parameters on that gift, that school can only use it in that way. So think about just giving a scholarship specifically for a student who meets these types of criteria, and then that way that it's going directly to that student. So I like that.
Absolutely.
Now, this is the last question. Well, not the last question I'll ask you, but the one kind of like wrapping up. If you could encourage a student to choose an HBCU or Bethune Cookman, what would you say?
I'm going to echo the words. So, I do presentations about HBCUs. and I include this clip from A Different World, my favorite show, Go Hillman College. And this is one particular scene that I use in all my presentations. And I'm just going to echo the words of the great Jasmine Guy, better known as Whitley Gilbert. And she was just saying, like, if you want to go to a place where you feel loved, if you want to go to a place where you feel like family, if you want to go to a place that believes in you and will push you and will create a legacy, go to Hillman. And I say the same thing to the younger people or the people that are interested in pursuing an HBCU for graduate school. If you want to go to a place where it's not going to be perfect, no school is. Let's just call it what it is. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be a place where you can grow if you choose to grow. It's going to be a place where you can gain knowledge and have resources and push out of your comfort zone. Go to an HBCU. If you want to go to a place where the people look like you, if you want to go to a place where you realize that, hey, we may have not enough resources or fewer resources than our counterparts, but guess what? We're still going to be in these same jobs and roles and positions that they will be in. Go to an HBCU. And it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. I and most of the people that I know would not be who and where they are without their HBCU experiences. So definitely try it for a year. If you don't like it, stay anyway, because you got to develop that grit and that determination and that perseverance. But try it out, and if you don't like it, just holler at me or don't.
If you don't like it, stay anyway. I like that. You right though.
Stay anyway. Right.
Well, Xav, I'm so excited that you were able to have the time to be on the podcast. I definitely appreciate the conversation today.
So much fun.
Yeah. What should we be looking for? Just what's coming up with you? Because I know you mentioned a few things in the conversation professionally, whether that be with your speaking or the Plant-Based Brotha. What's on the horizon?
What's on the horizon? Dun, dun, dun. So I will be creating more content. I'm going to be dropping some merch really, really soon.
Yay.
So I would love for you guys to support me. It's going to be stuff that, if you kind of like gathered the nature of this conversation, everybody can it's going to be merch that's real inclusive and that a lot of us will be able to wear. And I'm really excited about it. So check out for my merch very soon. And, I'm going on a church tour. I would love to do a college tour as well. So that's some of the things that are in the horizon. So again, if you are listening to this, bring in the Plant-Based Brotha to your school, or to your church, to your community group. I would love to Skype in and talk to your groups as well. But those are some of the things that are on the horizon. And my website, plantbasedbrotha.com, it's going to be launching very soon. So definitely check that out. And if you don't have my ebook, definitely get it. I would be greatly appreciative. It's in the link in my bio. Follow me on social media. So on Instagram, I am at the Plant-Based Brotha with an A. I am Plant-Based Brotha again on Facebook and on YouTube. Definitely subscribe. And, I know most of us are professionals as well. Let's connect on LinkedIn. I'm under X.Handfield. So just how it sounds, a hand on a field, just X.Handfield on LinkedIn. And that is tis I.
Nice. Well, if you guys missed anything, don't worry about it, okay? I have Xav's information, and we will have it in the show notes. We'll also have it on our website, which is the HBCUpodcast.com. All of the information that you need about this brother will be in the episode description. So again, Xav, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your energy. I appreciate your knowledge. And I am so excited to share this episode with the world.
Y'all are going to love it. Peace.
Thank you so much for listening to the HBCU podcast. We have so much more HBCU content on the way, so make sure you subscribe to the podcast, rate the podcast, and visit us at thehbcupodcast.com. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at the HBCU Podcast. Like us on Facebook. We love you for listening. Until next time.